Welcome everybody, this is Brady from BGWX. I apologize in advance for my voice sounding a little scratchy. That is due to the fact I have been deathly ill for the past few days. I'm worst I am right now, to be honest, but this obviously takes precedence. Let me start off this video by saying this will be one of the most sobering videos I've ever made on this channel. In fact, probably since Hurricane Dorian, which was a long time ago. It was a lot less experienced, a lot less smarter than I am now. But this will be a sobering video. Unfortunately, there is a major Category 5 hurricane that is going to strike Jamaica. When you talk about the benchmarks of hurricanes in Jamaican history, this will be it. This will be 1A. In fact, there won't be a 1B likely. This will be one alone, unfortunately. This is the strongest hurricane that will ever have hit Jamaica in the history. Now, granted, the entire eye wall likely won't engulf the island unless we see some massive eye wall replacement cycle take place. But this will be one of the most devastating hits to Jamaica. This likely will be the most devastating hit to Jamaica we have ever seen. I know my Jamaicans are strong down there. Believe me, my friends, I know they persevere through this. My Jamaican friends, I know they persevere. But you have to, speaking from experience, you have to realize, this will be one of the most life-altering events, if not the most, for many people. And that's just the reality of the situation. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Note, none of that was to fearmonger. That was just to set the tone in the reality that this will be a devastating hurricane. As of the 2 p.m. advisory, we have a 175 mile per hour Category 5 moving west-northwest at just 3 miles per hour. Central pressure 906 millibars, just roughly just above 6 millibars away from sub 900 millibars, from going into the 800s. Unbelievable. And 175 is conservative. I would lean more 180 to 185, and we can look at some of that stuff. You take a look at this Recon data. I mean, this data has been unbelievable to watch unfold this morning. Just absolutely incredible. Take a look at this northern eye wall here. This was not the one I wanted. Northeast eye wall, there we go. The mean wind in the lowest 150 meters, 185 knots. That directly translates to about 155, 160 knots roughly, in terms of a reduction to the surface that can be used to estimate the intensity. Look at all these readings though. 194, 197, 193. All in the lower part. That's not in the higher part too. That's in the lower part of the atmosphere. Just above the surface, 920, 922. And then we had, where was this one? Was it this one? Or it might have been the other one. We had a 210 knot one earlier as well, believe it or not. Yes, you heard that right, 210 knots. Was it the southwest eye wall? I'm going to find it because it was one of the most impressive things that I have ever seen. Do we still have the drops on data? There we go. Not from this one, but even look at that, 194 knots there. I mean, just absolutely, ridiculous stuff. We're seeing out of these drop zones. I mean, and for reference, that's well over 210 knots is over 240 miles per hour. I mean, this is just ridiculous stuff. Here we go. Look at that, 210 knots, and that's 907 millibars. That's just above the surface from where this was taken. That's about 20 millibars above the surface. That's about over 240 mile per hour wind gusts and frequently likely mixing down. So we're seeing a storm producing well over 200 mile per hour wind gusts, easily producing over 200 mile per hour wind gusts right now. This was probably, since this is very Dorian-like right now, to be honest, we're seeing peak flight level winds about 161 knots. You have to use a higher reduction as well, meaning instead of a 0.9 reduction, likely more towards a 0.93 to 0.96 reduction. I forget the name of the study. I wanted to shout it out, but it very well, had a very good case for why it should be a higher reduction, a higher percentage of the reduction when we're talking about such compact inner cores with such dry eyes, especially in such a warm, moist environment. That is the case here, and so that's why I think there is enough to suggest that we do have, a 180 plus mile per hour hurricane here. But the semantics don't matter between 5 to 10 miles per hour. At this point, it does not. We are going to see devastating impacts. You take a look. Where is this going to make landfall? Western Jamaica into that, maybe it's possible it's just off the coast, but likely Western Jamaica, like we've been talking about for days, you've been following on X, or like we talked about on YouTube. I continue to say I was leaning towards the western end of the solutions. I was not buying into Hispaniola hits or Eastern Jamaica. And I'm very proud I was able to execute that part of the forecast. Anticipated a Cat 5 about 12 hours too soon, but due to some eyewall mergers, instead of full-on replacement cycles, which actually ended up helping the storm intensify more today, we actually saw probably another faster but mini merger event this morning as well, and just catastrophic impacts this is going to be. So if we pause it here, we'll take a note. We'll take a screenshot here. So we'll see a mean track of this. Let's say somewhere around here. Somewhere around here, roughly. So that means, yes, very strong winds on the western part, but the dirty side of the eye. Look at the approach. This is the perfect approach, unfortunately, for max impacts, because you look at how it's coming in parallel to the direction of which Jamaica is angled. You can see that same angle, that Jamaica is on. It's coming in the same line of direction. So when we take a look here, notice comes in on the eastern side is that dirty side of the eye. This is likely where the most significant impacts are going to be, if I had to guess. Okay, and again, if this shifts, then that all shifts, all has to shift a little bit in each direction as well. But note, the surge all across this part of the island is going to be catastrophic, life-threatening on the low-lying areas. Now, the areas with some terrain just along the coastline, that will benefit a bit more. But we're going to be talking about, in feet, double digit. Probably we're talking 10 to 15 plus feet at least of storm surge at a minimum for a lot of these places, if not more, in some of those low-lying areas potentially. Absolutely devastating setup and scenario here. And question two is, we're down to 906 millibars, which really is supportive of strong storm surge. How much lower are we going to go? And do we see an eyewall replacement cycle? Let's take a look at radar here. Here's the Jamaican radar site. And we'll get to here. And you take a look, you will notice there's no signs of an eyewall replacement cycle ongoing. There are no signs yet. I mean, you take a look, this was radar as of 30 minutes ago, I believe. I believe so. Take a look. You have that strong inner eye wall, and you have this band that's been wrapped around. But this is not working as a concentric band, so to say. I think this is working to help feed into the system, to be honest, more so. So we're getting all potentially these mini merger events of the eye wall, so any concentric-like bands that form around, and they're just working in to actually help feed and increase the speed of the eye wall, of the inner eye wall. And when that angular momentum, so to say, becomes too stable and the eye can no longer hold it, we're seeing these mergers take place and fast forward any potential eye wall replacement cycle, which is extremely impressive to watch from a scientific perspective. But it's likely what's allowing this to go out and try and reach that max potential intensity. And so this is why, we're talking about 150 to 160 knot storm right now. That MPI was like 170, 175 knots. It's nearly hit that. So to say, it's getting very, very, very close and close. And you also have to take a look at radar. Notice heavy rains are starting on Jamaica now. Very heavy rains. This will be a devastating rainfall event as well. Potentially 20 to 40 plus inches of rain, if I had to guess. In total, if we include rain so far already accounted for at it, that total rainfall will likely be 20 to 40 plus inches, especially for the central and eastern parts of the island as well, because of, remember, the slow forward movement. So this rainfall, especially on the eastern side too, we're working like this moisture fetch here, and it's slow movement for days. Slow movement for days we're seeing now. Multiple days we'll see heavy rainfall of just extreme rainfall rates as this passes over the island. Just extreme, and even when it goes to the north, we'll see these feeder bands likely come on behind it as well and produce very heavy rainfall. And then that mountainous terrain lead to significant flash flood threat. This will also be the case for southwest Hispaniola into Haiti and also into eastern Cuba as well. So, if between Cuba, Jamaica, and western Hispaniola, an extreme flash flood threat. Now, if we slide here to satellite, we'll notice, again, an extreme presentation of this system. We'll also go to this. We'll go to this satellite. We'll go to cyclonic WX. Shout out to Alex Borum. We'll go loop, and you'll notice that max eye temp over 22 degrees it's been hitting. That is ridiculous. That's higher than Umberto, I believe it's gotten. Umberto was very high too. And then we also noticed, if we go to water vapor, I believe it's gotten down below I believe that it's gotten below minus 4.75, which is a record for dew point, by the way, inside, or this is showing the temperature, but dew point inside, which is a record, by the way, of any tropical cyclone. I know that's what it means. The eye is so dry in the middle. The eye, there is so much subsidence. There is so much sinking air. It is so dry in the middle of the eye that it has broken any record compared to any tropical cyclone that we've measured on satellite ever in the satellite era since we've been tracking this. At any typhoon, any cyclone, any hurricane. This is the highest. That lets you know what we're talking about in terms of how strong the storm is, and the consistent ring of minus 80 to minus 90 degree cloud tops. Just extremely impressive to watch unfold. Take a look at visible satellite. You can starting to see that northwest movement now, which is good. Would have preferred actually this to go a little bit further, but then this would have made it even worse for Cuba to an extent too. We have to remember that, but I mean, just jarring to watch how clearly you can see the mesovortices inside the eye if you really zoom in there, but how clearly from the surface to the top you can see that stadium effect and the eye itself. There's a great video if you go to the Hurricane Hunters showing this very clearly. That clear as day, a Dorian-like almost picture of the eye. So extreme impacts for Jamaica. This will move on. Again, landfall timing is daylight tomorrow, I would say, is looks to be the timing, plus or minus probably 4 to 6 hours, I would say. Okay, so at latest, tomorrow night in Jamaica, this makes landfall, I would say. Assuming this doesn't, scrape just to the west of the islands in a more extreme scenario. And then the earliest is tomorrow morning. Likely this makes landfall. So still, we're talking maybe, another 18 to 24 plus hours until a landfall. That's a lot of time. That's a lot. Think about all the hurricanes, for if you live in the Gulf of Mexico that have rapidly intensified before that. So again, this can only go so much higher, but if there's no eyewall replacement cycle, we know this environment is extremely favorable, is still extremely favorable. I mean, take a look at the upper level outflow here on this. This is as favorable as it gets. As favorable as it gets. Take a look here. Remember we were calling this the hurricane dome? Look how it's helping to support, just speeding, it's helping to spin the top faster as a storm has continued to sit further and further southwest from where it was a few days ago. It is in the perfect placement for intensification now, and you can see this outflow working for this system. I mean, it is just gorgeous from a meteorological perspective, but sobering to see that strong of a hurricane that close to land and knowing it's going to make landfall. So this is, again, an incredible setup. We've been talking about this for days, that this was probably not only going to have a good shot of being a Cat 5, but a strong Cat 5. And it's hard oftentimes to see it verify because there's so many little nuances to forecasting. But man, did it happen. An extremely favorable environment for intensification. And we saw this take place. I mean, just an incredible loop here, as you can see on the mid-level water vapor. So if we slide now to where was I going to slide it? Slide back to IR again. Wanted to show you. Look at that ring of -80 to -990 cloud top, just continuing to hold steady. I mean, just I mean, to see it for this long and continuing to allow those pressure falls to happen is it's just really rare to see something in the Atlantic ever, let alone October 27th, a few days before November 1st, to see something like this. Happening in the Atlantic. It's incredible. Even though it's the Caribbean, it does not. I mean, just anywhere in the Atlantic to see this right now is extremely impressive, so to say. And man, you take a look at the water vapor, you can see, how impressive this setup is, so to say. Take a look at the water vapor, just that moisture fetch going in from the east, from really into the central Pacific. Look at this. It's pulling all of this. And it's pulling it in, man. And it's just so impressive to watch the moisture fetch that this system has to work with. And one of the more moist environments you'll ever see for a tropical cyclone. Just, I mean, this classic. So many things from a scientific perspective that are just making this one of the most extreme setups. And then you look at the Dvorak satellite constantly overshooting. But I've never seen 8.3 on the adjusted T number. I don't think I've ever seen it before. And we saw it. That's as high as we'll see. Not that it overshoot it, yes, but this was one of the most impressive. I mean, it's sub 900, up to like 176 knots. I mean, just ridiculous stuff. Now, I don't know if we had microwave imagery update on this site. It should have, but I don't know if it actually did or not. Nope, it's from yesterday. But it was impressive. I must have found it on another site. But again, extremely impressive stuff. From a meteorological perspective, I thought it would be good to break this all down, what's happening from a weather standpoint, and then also from a science perspective more, how incredible what we're witnessing is. And then also, from a impact standpoint, break that down a little bit. But you can hear the tone of my voice, not just because I'm sick. I'm trying to keep things as even as possible. Because you have to remember, being calm is what helps you be prepared. You cannot make the best decisions possible without being as calm as possible, have multiple different ways to prepare, have different plans in place so that, when what hits the fan, you can adjust on the fly and be able to say, what, I think this is what we're going to do now because I had this plan in place if we were to see this happen, if the water were to get this high, if we were to run out of these supplies. You have all these different plans in place to to be able to execute when you need it at the times. So again, an incredibly impressive Category 5 hurricane, major Category 5, strong Category 5. And conditions will continue to go downhill overnight tonight and will be worst tomorrow for Jamaica. So we will continue to watch this very, very closely. Again, I am sending my best regards to everybody in Jamaica, Cuba, southwestern Hispaniola as well, into the Bahamas, and hopefully Bermuda as well does not have to take a direct strike from this, but we'll keep an eye on that. We're going to leave it for here for now, not go any farther. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Until next time, peace.